Hetapu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Qesankh Keperu with another exciting video for you. In this video, we're going to talk about how to have a successful and loving relationship. But before I go into that, I'd like you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, welcome. Hit the subscribe button to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you're interested in knowing more about my spiritual teachings, you can download one of our free ebooks. You just scroll down below, click on the link, download the ebook today, and start reading right away. However, if you're like Alice and you want to follow that rabbit down the rabbit hole to go deeper, you can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month. It's up to you. You can cancel it anytime. There's no obligation. You'll get exclusive access to instructional videos on the esoteric and the spiritual, how to meditate, how to invoke spirits for your protection, how to do a ritual, proper breathing techniques to calm the animal spirit, how to do divination, work with the oracles, and how to do self-hypnosis to get rid of overeating or your smoking addiction. So all that is available to you as a Patreon supporter. So become one today. Last but not least, please share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. So Haru Nefer, I want to talk a little bit today about having an awesome, loving relationship. Now, in my previous video, I focused on a polygamous relationship. Here, it's going to be strictly about having a monogamous relationship with one person who you vibe with, who it works with. Now, we don't need to look far to see how relationships in the Western world have been corrupted. And one of the things that the Western world is keen on doing through its major educational institutions or institutions of higher learning, universities, your religious institutions, and the mass media, is to vilify religions and the male role, the so-called patriarchy. And this is done in the area of higher learning by introducing divergent forms of feminism. Mass media, what they do is they don't promote the nuclear family anymore. And so it takes an even more sinister approach by putting out there, especially when it comes to minority groups, a very warped sense of relationships and love. In fact, you'll see the promotion of WAP. You see female pop stars or rap stars come out there and do all types of dysfunctional things under the guise of feminine liberation. What it really is doing is trying to destroy functional relationships by giving you a warped sense of love, a warped sense of beauty, and a warped sense of, attraction. So we have to go back, way back in antiquity, to see how our ancestors saw relationships, because they were the first ones to put together civilization and family. And it worked for them for thousands of years, where we see in the Western world, the high divorce rate is crumbling down. And it's designed that way because you have your major think tank institutions like Tavistock, Rockefeller Foundation, who come up with these 100-year plans to actually destroy the family and introduce dysfunctional and divergent ways of thinking, and to actually normalize dysfunction among relationships. And this is important to understand. And it's a tactic that they do, which is 360. So it doesn't just rise up in one institution like the institution of higher learning, but they take the 360 approaches to everywhere you go. You're indoctrinated into this ideology, and it becomes so normalized, and they attack the children with it, that by the time the children get older, the men and the women can't live together. They find a lot of difficulty, so we have to be aware of that. And also during, 2020, we're seeing how there's further distance apart from us now. So there's a lot of challenges going on. And one of the things, again, going back to what I was saying before, how they vilify, um, non-Western religions and traditions, is to look upon the relationships or the structure of family in ancient Kemet or ancient Africa, and to look at it as primitive, outdated, and maybe oppressive toward women, when that's not necessarily the case. So what I want to do is to type of clarify, you know, and get to the heart of the matter. Is like, here are some elements that can make a very, very successful relationship if we get back to this. Now, I'm not talking going back to the 60s and the 50s, where the man was the one working and bringing home the bread and all that. I'm talking about putting in place spiritual customs and culture that are the glue that could hold the relationship together and allow it to prosper. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about establishing a real connection between a man and a woman. I am not talking about hooking up with people because they just look fine, they look good. And that's the problem that we have in today's society. Everything is based on what I call the animal spirit, or the ancient Kemetic people call the animal spirit. And the animal spirit, the Sahu, rules you, meaning that you are trained like an animal to act upon your emotions and to make it instinctive like an animal. See, you're a God man, God woman. You have a free will. You have the ability to ignore the emotional impulses, because, you know, that is how you access higher wisdom. That is how you access Tahuti, Hermes Trismegistus, to gain enlightenment, to become God. And when I say become God, I just don't mean to have wisdom. I'm talking about have the power of God, which is to manifest in your life. All right. And you and your mate will be manifesting wonders if you approach this in the proper way. But we've got to start to divorce ourselves from the ignorance, the dysfunctionalism of these pop stars, these record companies, the mass media, which does not have our best interest at heart. I mean, they are pumping out all kinds of things to the airwaves, and they're exposing children to it. And there's no way that children can get away from it, because it's part of the ecosystem. It's been normalized in society. So I want you to start looking at this. All right. Your union with your mate has to serve a higher purpose, a higher goal. We're so conditioned now that we think, oh, we get together, we have a family because we're attracted to each other, because we love each other. That is not necessarily the goal. You see, everything in your life is a means to an end. And the relationship is a means to realize your divinity, to come into the realization of who you are, which is God. All right. That's what that relationship is about. That's the establishment of it. That's the guiding star. That is the higher principle of the relationship. In other words, you're saying to yourself that when I get into this relationship with my mate, the chief goal of this relationship is for both of us to come into a realization of our divinity, of that we're God. And everything, the trials and tribulations that happen along those lines, are means to help you realize that, to bring that out. And that is the Sekert part. Sekert deals with obstructions and limitations, and Sekert will put instructions in your relationship to help you grow. Now, your relationship is governed by the Trinity, the three goddesses, or the three deities. It's governed by Ma'at, goddess of relationships. She's love, giving, seeking nothing in return. It is guided by Heteru, Hathor, joy. Joy comes from within. Joy is in the journey, not the destination. And finally, Aset, goddess of trance, goddess of devotion. She was so devoted to her mate, Oser, that she traveled the world to put the pieces back together again, to resurrect Oser. That was a devotion. They're husband and wife, brother and sister. Heteru is married to Heru, the king, the will. Ma'at is married to Tahuti, wisdom, Hermes Trismegistus, thought. So in ancient Kemet, they saw the importance of relationships husband and wife, brother, sister. And those relationships were based on cosmological principles. It wasn't just based on the fact that you were feeling this person or you're attracted to this person and you got into the relationship. You see, when you start to understand the mechanics of the spirit and how the spirit works, you will go to the temple of Hathor, to learn that attraction can be turned on and turned off. Do you understand what I'm saying? See, you have a free will. So you have the ability to be programmed and conditioned. You can be programmed to be attracted to someone, programmed to be repelled by them. And society is doing a great job to tailor who women should be attracted to. It's influencing them on a subliminal level. But understand that there are certain buttons you can press to turn on the attraction. You can see a woman and not be attracted to her. But if I put you into a state of trance and tell you through hypnosis that you're attracted to that person, you will be attracted to that person. Or if you're married to a very, very handsome man like myself, and you're totally in love with him, why wouldn't you be? I can put you in a state of trance and tell you he's ugly, and you'll be repelled and disgusted by that man. And our ancient ancestors knew of this power of trance. They knew the power of programming and subliminal influences. So they worked very hard to deal with that, to condition the spirit with the right principles known as the truisms, okay? So think about that. And that was done through a set trance state, alternate states, okay? Now, the first thing that happens to where things go wrong big time is that you see somebody and you're immediately physically attracted to them. And that is the impetus that propels you into action. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, I want you to know that when men have things like men get horny, women get horny, or they get turned on, that is actually a sign of health. Because in ancient Kemet, they didn't shy away from the physical body. We walked around naked and no one was like freaking out because we knew it was natural. This is why you'll see the obelisk, which is the sign of the male phallus. We had no problem with erections and things of that nature because we knew it was a sign of health, vitality. This is why the obelisk was in Kemet. It showed that Kemet was a prospering nation. And all foreigners would come there. One of the first things they would see were the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the obelisk. But in Western society, especially Judeo-Christian society, because they are very left-brain, concrete thinking, they look at the body as sinful. The naked body is sinful. See, we were the first Adam and Eve. We were the first to walk around in paradise in Eden naked and not be ashamed of our bodies. When Herodotus, the historian, went to ancient Kemet and he wrote in his book, The Histories, one of the things he said was their children play naked by themselves, unsupervised. Because we had no pedophiles. We had no shame of the body. It was a community where everyone looked after the welfare of the children and looked after the welfare of each other. There was very little crime. When you look at the Metu Neter, the hieroglyphics, you will see the ancient Kemetic people, the Kamau, naked. And you'll see certain gods and goddesses, or the gods ejaculating, which is an analogy. But we had no shame of that. But along comes the Christian religion, which perverted everything with its left-brain concrete thinking. And they wanted to get everybody to conform to their ideology, to conform to their religious belief as the only true way. You took something that wasn't simple, made it simple, and then said that's the true way. They took you, who you are God, and say you are a sinner. You're a born sinner. So they perverted these concepts, and now they're perverting the concepts of relationships. So you shouldn't be getting to a relationship based on the physical aesthetics of the individual, just because they look pretty, like me, or have, good, they can talk well, very articulate, and all of a sudden you're wooed by that. So you get into a relationship with them, and years later you find out they're addicted to drugs, they're abusive, and things of that nature. Well, we rectify that ahead of time. The minute you see somebody you are attracted to, we go to the oracles. We go to a diviner, a priest, a babalao, or priestess, and we ask the oracle, is this somebody we should get into a relationship with, or is this someone we should pursue? And if the oracle says yes, you're free to pursue this person, then you get into the courtship phase. You start seeing them, and then, But if the oracle reveals that this person is hell on earth, this person will drag you through the gutter, leave it alone. Even though you may start the relationship and it may seem wonderful, if the oracle says don't, trust and believe that eventually down the road that person is going to show its true colors. The oracle is never wrong, and the oracle is not going to lead you in the wrong direction. So that is the first thing we need to be doing. Actually, the first thing we need to be doing is cutting ourselves off from modern media in these educational institutions and religious institutions on what they have to say about relationships, and go to God, go to the oracle. Ask the oracle if it's someone that you should be in a relationship with. And then if you get into a relationship with this person, do as best as possible, make sure that that person has a spiritual foundation. I'm not talking about spiritual foundation of Western religion. I'm talking about a spiritual foundation in non-traditional or non-Western religions. Because what you're going to bring to the table is going to be something radically different than what Western religions are based on. You see, you're going to come together and make an agreement. And that agreement is going to be this, that this relationship, this structure that we're in, is going to facilitate our ascension to becoming gods. That is going to be the basis of your relationship. And everything that springs forth from that path, everything that happens, the challenges and the obstacles that you may encounter, you may get on each other's nerve and things of that nature, are going to be the means to help you to grow. You must agree upon this. You must understand this. This structure, this relationship is a means to becoming God. That's what it's about. It's not about us getting our rocks off, having sex like crazy, falling in love with each other, giving each other Google eyes. That's okay, but that's not the means for which the relationship should be established on. It has to be established on the idea that you're using this relationship and the trials and tribulations that come along with it as a means to develop. For example, if I don't know, something arbitrary, suck my teeth a lot and it annoys my mate, she's going to use that as a means to grow beyond that emotional trigger. She's going to meditate, see herself not becoming triggered by me sucking my teeth, and in the process, grow spiritually. If my mate can't control her spending, that is going to be a means for her to grow spiritually, to learn how to not overspend, to go into a meditative state, visualize herself being more conservative, more cognizant of the money she's spending. And there you go. Now, this leads into or goes to the step that comes prior to this, which is you do the reading. Okay, you've already done the reading on if you two to come together. Now you do the reading on how the relationship is going to fare. And it's going to tell you how the relationship is going to fare. And there's another system that's very brilliant called the Chinese Bagua system. And the Bagua system, you plug in your birth date and your mate's birthday, and it tells you the combination of both your energies, how the relationship is going to unfold, whether it be conflict, whether it be a lot of love, things of that nature. But when you go to the oracle to ask that question, you have an insight into the future. You have an insight as to how this relationship is going to unfold. There's going to be no surprises. Then you take it further and you do a relationship on yourself. It's like, how will I handle this relationship? How will I deal in this relationship? Or you can say, what will I need to focus on in order to be successful in this relationship? And then she'll do the same thing. And then you reveal to each other your reading, and you both will know your hangups. So therefore, if she sees that I get up late for work every morning, she'll know because the reading predicted that. She'll say, oh yeah, that's the reading said that he's going to have trouble being on time or committing. And she'll see that ahead of time, and she'll know, because that's your challenge. And then that is the thing that you'll need to work on as part of becoming God. And that relationship will serve as the vehicle for that. Now, with this firmly in mind, the rest of it will go according to, your spiritual beliefs. You two should be doing meditations together. You two should be doing rituals together, because that's going to further cement your bond. And at the center of that relationship, remember, always there's God. That is the thing. Now, the next things that we want to do is to make sure that we have a physical person to go to in terms of when there's conflict or arguments or disagreements. We do have the oracles, but we need somebody who can interpret that. So we go to our Babalawo, our priest or priestess, who will assist us and watch over the relationship. And we'll also go to family members who should be applying pressure if someone gets out of pocket. If I'm over there hanging out with women, that my immediate family should be going, hey, Qesankh, you shouldn't be like socializing with all these women. That's not good for you. And the priest should be stepping in as well. Because in ancient Kemet, or in ancient Africa, and in ancient China, the priest and the extended family all would apply pressure to an individual to stay within the confines of what is right and what is wrong. So you can't shame people in this society. They make it seem like shaming is wrong. If you have someone who's obese and you shame them, like you're body shaming. No, I'm trying to help them so they don't die of a heart attack. Do you understand? That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to help them so they don't die of a heart attack. And the shaming process is that's part of it, to get them back into alignment with good health. But as I said, it's not politically correct in today's climate. Now, I want you to understand something. You're always going to have disagreements. You can't avoid that. But those things are there for you to grow. They're there for you to flex your spiritual muscle. You understand? And one of the things you'll have to come into an understanding of is that your belief system, what you think and what you feel, determines your external world. It determines the 4D environment that you're interacting with. It determines the holographic experience. Remember, there is nothing there but you. Nothing there but you. What do I mean by that? There's no doggy, there's no fish, there's no kids, there's no mate. He or she is a projection of your thoughts and your beliefs. You manifested her. The only one that's in this reality, this experience, is you. That is it. He, she does not exist. They're an avatar. This is why when people come and they need counseling and they say, my mate has changed, my mate is not the same person, we don't get along. And the thing I say is, examine your belief system. What have you changed in your thinking process? Because when you think of something different, when your belief system changes, you automatically shift to a parallel reality that's different. And what does that mean? You have a different mate now. You have unwittingly, or you have changed the dynamics of the situation. When your belief system changes, your reality changes, because reality doesn't exist apart from the observer. So that mate that you have is not the same mate that you had last month or last year, because you're evolving and changing, and he or she is going to evolve and change. They're going to adapt. It's a synergistic relationship. They're going to change according to you. So you must be on top of your game. You must make sure that you are following the correct path of Ma'at. You must make sure that God is the center of your relationship, and that, as Ma'at says, consistency. You must be consistent in who you are and how you practice your spiritual cultivation. Because if you're not, you're going to find that you're going to encounter these difficulties. Because your mate may mirror back to you some weaknesses, some frailties that you have. If you're overeating and you haven't been working on that, she's going to bring that up and mirror that back to you. And don't blame her. Don't get upset at her saying she's nagging me. Get upset at your person as a God. Be accountable and say, I'm not adhering to my spiritual principles. And she's calling that out, or he's calling that out. You're going to find that your mate is going to be saying the things that you were thinking, acting upon the things that you were thinking. And you may think, oh, it's because we're in love or we have that tie. No, it's because they are just a hologram, an avatar. They don't exist. You've created them, and they're only acting in accordance to your belief system. Now, I'm not going to get into twin flames and soulmates. We could talk about that another time. But what I want you to understand is the only thing that exists is you. And the only thing that's real is the experience. And that's what the relationship is about, the experience. And learning from the experience, transcending your hangups, your animal spirit, so that you can grow spiritually together. And the oracles will reveal the shortcomings that you both have. And if you're successful, you will both get to the point of where you will become Osir. And you can transcend time and space and control time and space in this space-time continuum. So I want you to think about that and look at this in a way and say, how can we approach our relationship that will make it loving and lasting? Because we are being bombarded by the outside world, which is very destructive, that wants to break apart our relationships. Here are some books I recommend that you check out. They're very basic books, but they're good. This is Linda Goodman's Sun Sign, so that you and your mate can understand how your zodiac signs will vibe together. An African Guide to a Spiritual Union by Raoul Nefaman. And this is the 9-star key system. This is the Bagua system where I talked about plugging in your dates, your birth dates, and seeing how you two will interact with each other. It's a brilliant, brilliant system, Chinese astrology, which really based on the 5 stars, the key, the elements, and the I-ching, and really, really predicts the outcome of how you will relate to each other based on alchemy. And then lastly, there's this book, The African Religion. And this gives you an idea, an insight into culture, cultural norms, how to take things back to the traditional approach, how men and women should be interacting with each other. So those books can be a starting point to help you have a better relationship and a better spiritual relationship for becoming God. And that is the goal. Coming together based on other things is a recipe for disasters, a recipe for everything to fall apart. I want you to understand that, because you may not think that you're under the influence of these subliminal seductions, the subliminal messages, but you are, and you're constantly being programmed for destruction or for, in your relationships, implosion. Because they wanted to. It's designed that way. They create these pendulums, these thought viruses, these ergobores, to break up relationships, to break up the structure. So I don't care how strong you think you are, and you go, "Wow, I love her that much, or I love him that much that we can succeed." It's not as easy as that. It's not as easy as that. You're a target, and they gotta do all they can to usher in a new era. I mean, for one thing, they don't want genders. That's the first thing. So they're trying to eliminate that totally. So keep that in mind. All right. So if you get an opportunity, please donate to the channel. Your donation will be appreciated. This is Qesankh Ma Keperu, son of Ma and Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heather Rue. Until the next video, Amun Ra.